40 across Iowa tomorrow, though, so it's not too bad for us.
Lurking's a good word for snowstorms.
Yeah, really.
All right, thank you for joining us.
We'll be back tonight at 10. Have a good evening.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. It has been a nagging question ever since the Iran affair was revealed. Just when did the president approve the first arms sales to Iran? Before they took place or afterwards? The president has given conflicting answers to the commission which is investigating his National Security Council. Today, the president said he doesn't remember. We begin at the White House with ABC's Sam Donaldson.
At the outset of a meeting with black leaders, President Reagan indicated to reporters that he has simply forgotten whether he approved in advance the Israeli arms shipment to Iran in the summer of 1985.
I'd like to ask one question of everybody. Everybody that can remember what they were doing on August 8th of 1985, raise your hand. I think it's possible to forget. Nobody's raised any hands.
In his first interview with the Tower Commission, Mr. Reagan reportedly agreed with the testimony of his former National Security Advisor, Robert McFarlane, that he had approved the Israeli arms shipment in advance. But at his second interview, the president reportedly changed his story to that given by his Chief of Staff, Donald Regan, which is that he had not given advance approval. This assertion of a faulty memory struck two top House Democrats as a less than perfect explanation for the switch.
That's an appalling thing, and maybe he did forget. I'm not prepared to get into the inner sanctums of the president's mental processes.
When testimony is changed, when documents are changed, when positions are changed, you have to say that it's more than just a failure of memory.
When the Tower Commission report is released Thursday morning, the president will appear to thank the commissioners and promise to study their work carefully. Then next week, probably Tuesday, he will deliver a prime-time television speech with his response and perhaps hold a news conference, but that has not been settled. And he will sit down with Chief of Staff Regan to discuss Regan's future, which appears to be out.
There's only one reason to serve as Chief of Staff, and that's to serve the President of the United States. And when you can no longer do that, then you should move on.
Sources here say Regan's departure will not occur this week, may not occur even next week. And when he goes, he may go to another job in the Reagan administration. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, the White House.
Well, as Sam told us, Thursday is the day that the president's own commission will present him with that report, and it's going to be a very embarrassing one. Today, we know some of what it's going to say. Here's ABC's Bob Zelnick.
Tower Commission sources have told ABC News that President Reagan gave vague and sometimes contradictory answers regarding a key issue of whether the Iran deals involved the trading of arms for hostages. But despite some private skepticism, sources say the Tower report, lacking firm proof to the contrary, will accept the president's claim that he was most interested in using arms as part of a strategic initiative to open doors in Iran. Commission sources say a different conclusion will be reached about John Poindexter, Oliver North, and others on the NSC. Based on internal memoranda and other material from the White House computer, the commission will find that these men were fully aware of the arms for hostages nature of the Iran business. For Chief of Staff Donald Regan, some good news. The final commission report will make no finding of wrongdoing on his part. While commission sources say there has been testimony linking Regan to a doctored Iran chronology prepared last November to minimize the president's role in the affair, Regan himself denies that. Individual panel members find that denial unpersuasive, but lacking documentation, sources say the panel will not attempt to resolve the conflicting accounts. While the report will leave to independent counsel Lawrence Walsh the job of saying whether any individual should face criminal prosecution, commission sources say it will accuse the NSC of ignoring legal restrictions on military aid to the Contras and the sale of weapons to Iran. Finally, commission sources say the inability to question North and Poindexter, who asserted the Fifth Amendment, or to get at Swiss bank account records, prevented the panel from learning much about the amount of Iran weapons profits diverted to the Contras or the mechanics of the diversion. Commission sources say the lesson to be learned is that policies like helping the Contras or getting the hostages home cannot become obsessions. Obsessions which are at war with common sense, prudent statecraft, and the rule of law. Bob Zelnick, ABC News, Washington.
Later in this broadcast, a legal challenge to the special prosecutor from Colonel Oliver North. American banks and a multi-billion-dollar debt to Brazil. And alligator records all the way to the top with the blues.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Yugo.
The 87 Yugos are here, and people love them.
I think it's fun to drive. I like the rack and pinion steering.
We wanted a dependable second car. It's easy to love America's most affordable new car, the $39.90 Yugo GB. And now there's even more value during Yugo's Pack for Action sale. You can get sport wheel covers, a right side mirror, roof rack.
Great!
And a 3-year, 50,000-mile extended service plan.
Wow!
All at terrific savings.
I'll take it.
Hurry, this offer won't last long. See your participating Yugo dealer today.
When you need it most, you can get extra strength relief from acid indigestion with extra strength Riopan Plus. In lab tests, it neutralizes twice the acid as regular Maalox or Mylanta. It's that strong. You can also get extra strength relief from heartburn with extra strength Riopan Plus. Ounce for ounce, it neutralizes twice the acid as regular Maalox or Mylanta. It's that strong. Extra strength Riopan Plus. Regular strength, too.
Colonel Oliver North's legal team weighed in today with a legal challenge to the independent counsel which is investigating him. As ABC's Dennis Trout reports from Washington, the lawsuit tries to make a case for not having a special prosecutor.
Oliver North's attorney's filing asks that independent counsel Lawrence Walsh be thrown out and his office abolished because it is, quote, plainly unconstitutional. The basic argument that a counsel appointed by a court gives the judicial branch the executive's job of enforcing the law. Conservatives long have liked that argument, but in a rare public comment, Lawrence Walsh's office says that after careful and extensive study, it is satisfied with the constitutionality of the law, and it promises to oppose North's legal action. Meanwhile, Fawn Hall, the woman who was Oliver North's personal secretary for 4 years and whose testimony now is buttressing the case against him, appeared for a photo session with newsmen today. She refused to answer substantive questions and said all this notoriety is unsettling.
It's a little nervous for me, but it's different. I don't think I've ever had so many cameras aimed at me.
Government sources say that during a month of sessions with Lawrence Walsh's staff investigators, Hall has provided damning evidence against her former boss. They're attempting to build a case of obstruction of justice against Oliver North. Ms. Hall's two main assertions: that she used a word processor to help North alter 4 memos on the Iran arms sale by deleting names that would implicate his superiors, and that one night before the arrival of Justice Department investigators to go through North's records on the arms deal, she helped him destroy some by shredding them. Congressional investigators now say they too would like to hear from Ms. Hall. Her lawyer says if Congress guarantees her immunity from prosecution, as the independent counsel has, she'll tell her story again on Capitol Hill. Dennis Trout, ABC News, Washington.
The chairman of the House Select Committee on Iran said today that on Thursday the committee will announce the names of several people who the committee believes should be granted immunity from prosecution. Chairman Lee Hamilton said Colonel North and his boss, the former NSC chief John Poindexter, will not be on the list. Well, we have reported before on this broadcast that a number of the investigations underway have been concentrating their attention on private organizations with which Colonel North was connected and which might have been used to channel money and arms to the Contras in Nicaragua. One of the organizations being scrutinized is International Business Communications, or IBC. John Martin has the result of an ABC News investigation.
These are the offices of International Business Communications, a public affairs and political counseling company in Washington. According to documents and minutes of its meetings obtained by ABC News, last year IBC helped carry out a vast national media campaign on behalf of the Nicaraguan rebels. It sent 7 Contra speakers to 72 congressional districts spread over 12 states. The speakers pushed the cause of the Contras while Congress was trying to decide whether to resume military aid. At the same time, this secret State Department contract called for IBC to advise Central American officials visiting the United States and to assist journalists visiting Central America. Contra sources told ABC News, meanwhile, that IBC helped pay expenses for this Contra lobbying office in Washington. Although such activities were apparently not illegal, the State Department is investigating the contract. But IBC got a lot of money from another source, and investigators want to know whether any of it went to buy arms illegally for the Contras. The Tower Commission is studying IBC's relationship to conservative fundraiser Spitz Channel and the money Channel raised with former National Security Council staff member Oliver North. Some of that money may have been used to pay David Fisher after he left his job as special assistant to President Reagan and became an IBC consultant. Photocopies of bills and 3 checks show Fisher was paid $20,000 a month by Channel. Channel is president of the National Endowment for the Preservation of Liberty, a conservative foundation with offices 3 blocks from the White House. Some reports have alleged that North gave Channel money diverted from the Iran arms sales to help lobby for the Contras. Channel has denied these allegations. Ledgers and bank statements obtained by ABC News show that Channel paid IBC $5 million in 15 months in unusually large amounts. Example, the endowment records show it paid IBC more than $400,000 in December 1985 and again in January 1986. The records also show payments of $1,200,000 in March and April 1986, when Congress was considering a series of votes on funding the Contras. Then, the foundation gave IBC a single check on May 2nd, 1986 for $1,250,000. Channel refuses to comment, and IBC President Rich Miller declines to explain the payments on advice of counsel, he said. But these records show that Channel paid most of the cost of the pro-Contra campaign to other companies. So the mystery is, why did IBC receive $5 million? Investigators for independent counsel Lawrence Walsh are studying these records. They show much of the money paid to IBC came from a Channel account used for something called the Toys Project. A former employee told ABC News she believes the money was raised for military supplies. A Channel associate is quoted as saying he was told the Toys Project was for Christmas assistance to the Contras and their families. But millions of dollars of expenditures by an organization linked to Colonel North raises another possibility, that Channel and North used IBC as a conduit for military aid to the Contras. John Martin, ABC News, Washington.
We have one last note in our Iran coverage today. We learned that Robert McFarlane checked out of Bethesda Naval Hospital and returned home yesterday. 2 weeks ago, you'll recall, McFarlane was rushed to the hospital after trying to commit suicide. Today, his lawyer said he is going to try to go back to work and resume a normal life. Quote, as much as the various investigations will allow, end quote. When we come back, the debate over mandatory AIDS testing.
Hello. I guess you know I find you extremely attractive.
Hey, thank you very much.
It's time to change your light bulb. Philips longer life square bulbs last 32% longer than ordinary round bulbs.
Tums doesn't have it. Rolaids doesn't have it. Maalox-Plus does. We have what you need for complete relief of excess acid, heartburn, and gas. Maalox for acid and heartburn, plus simethicone for gas. Get complete relief. Try Maalox-Plus.
Who builds the best family wagons in America? 200 owners of Ford and GM cars compared Dodge Caravan and Plymouth Voyager with new V6 power to Ford Aerostar and Chevy Astro. After judging 45 important features, they rated Chrysler's front-wheel drive family wagons best. 79% chose Voyager and Caravan over Astro, 84% chose them over Aerostar. And only Chrysler's family wagons get a new 770 protection plan. End of test.
You'll go wild over Riunite Royal Raspberry. The taste of raspberries and natural Riunite, not a watered-down cooler. And try natural peach.
Public health officials and civil rights advocates gathered in Atlanta today for 2 days of hearings on a number of proposals to fight the spread of AIDS. The Center for Disease Control is considering a plan which would require testing millions of Americans for exposure to the AIDS virus. Here's ABC's George Strait.
Among the 300 public health officials gathered in Atlanta, there was a feeling of extreme frustration and concern. Frustration that the AIDS epidemic is getting out of hand.
We have no choice but to consider and reconsider every possible approach to preventing the spread of this epidemic.
And concern that using universal, even mandatory testing to control the disease is a dangerous overreaction.
I believe that it really represents a posturing in the name of public health, with the likelihood that it will produce very little in the way of interrupting the spread of this infection.
It is clear that the AIDS epidemic is much more serious than the case count would indicate.
Officials estimate 1.5 million Americans are infected with the AIDS virus, but they don't really know. And they don't know how far AIDS has spread into the heterosexual community. So the Center for Disease Control has proposed wider testing. All persons about to go into the hospital and all about to get married.
It's a disease that kills, and people have a right to know if they have it. So I'm all for it.
I don't fool around, so I wouldn't have no need for the test, but for it to be mandatory for me to take it, no, I wouldn't want to.
Most of those who run public health clinics are against wider testing too, calling it neither ethical or productive.
That bothers me greatly because I don't know whether it will not drive people away from treatment.
So you're saying that people won't come in to be tested?
They won't come in, or if it's mandatory in some setting, they'll give false names or false information, and the public health good will not be served.
Fear is the problem. Fear that the results of the test will get out. Fear that AIDS victims will end up like Gary Yu, who was denied insurance when it was learned that he tested positive for the AIDS virus.
These test results will be released to insurance companies to deny insurance, and that this type of information will be used against people rather than as a medical precaution.
While the consensus at this conference is that expanding AIDS testing is a bad idea, there's a sense that it might have to be. As the Secretary of Health and Human Services said, a few individual rights might have to be sacrificed if AIDS is to be conquered. George Strait, ABC News, Atlanta.
We have two other stories about AIDS this evening. The Japanese have just announced a new program to contain the spread of AIDS. It includes a recommendation that foreigners known to be carrying the AIDS virus be barred from entering Japan. And French officials have unveiled a new program which permits anyone to buy hypodermic needles over the counter without a prescription and without identifying themselves. The idea is to make clean needles available to drug addicts who frequently get AIDS from sharing used syringes. There has been another cyanide scare in 4 eastern states. The Acme supermarket chain has recalled its half and half dairy product from stores in New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, and West Virginia. This happened after a New Jersey man apparently drank some half and half that contained cyanide. The man survived. In our next segment, the giant Brazilian debt. Will American banks be left holding the bag?
Sinks clogged.
What do we do?
Get the all-purpose drain opener, Crystal Drano. Works on hair, food, and grease. Liquid plumber may not work on some clogs.
Wow.
There's also liquid Drano. Remember, the one name to know is Drano.
Extra strength Bufferin for Steve's backache, Kim's legs, John's shoulder, Debbie's headache. It goes to where you hurt fast with an extra strength dose of pain relief for headaches and a lot more. Extra strength Bufferin, also in regular strength.
This man is missing nearly 1/2 of the fiber he should have every day. He's not the only one. The National Cancer Institute states that most Americans have diets lacking adequate fiber. Fortunately, just 1 serving of Kellogg's All-Bran has the amount of fiber needed to make up what the average person is missing each day. Kellogg's All-Bran. It can make all the difference.
This is the beginning. The all-new Chrysler Lebaron. Beauty with a passion for driving. Advanced front-wheel drive traction. Positive response suspension. Fuel-injected high-torque power. Choose precision 5-speed. Heart-pounding turbo. All with Chrysler's new 770 protection plan. New LeBaron from Chrysler. Driving to be the best.
In the morning, in the evening, ain't we got fun? You know, when you take a Carnival cruise, all your shipboard fun is included in the price. All your nighttime entertainment's included. All your food's included, too. Plus, Plus fantastic tropical ports of call. And you know what all this costs? A lot less than you think. Even your airfare's included. Take a 3, 4, or 7-day cruise on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
Overseas today in West Beirut, Syrian peacekeeping forces showed they meant business as they moved to take over both Druze and Shiite militia strongholds. The police report that 3 Druze and 23 Hezbollah militiamen were killed by the Syrians during the fighting. At one Hezbollah headquarters, where it is believed American hostages have been held at one time, departing militiamen set tires on fire inside the building. One Lebanese security source says that may have been an attempt to blacken the walls with soot to hide any writing or any fingerprints. Here at home, 2 of the administration's top economic advisors went to Capitol Hill today to reassure nervous lawmakers worried about Brazil. Both Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker and Treasury Secretary James Baker say they think Brazil's decision to suspend payments on its international debt is just a temporary measure. Temporary or not, it has been a shock to the stockholders of American banks and to the financial markets. Here's ABC's Al Dale.
1 year ago, Brazil was reeling under an inflation spiral threatening to reach 1,000% annually. So to stop inflation, the government froze prices, but it also increased wages. That led to a buying spree so intense that products such as meat, which had been chief exports, were now in short supply and had to be brought into Brazil. Brazil started importing more and more and exporting less and less, and that caused more severe economic woes.
So that their trade surplus just disappeared, and they have a cash flow problem. They simply don't have the cash in the till to pay the interest.
Brasileiras. So last Friday, Brazil's President José Sarney announced that interest payments on his nation's $108 billion debt would be suspended. Of that $108 billion, Brazil owes American banks $24 billion. The U.S. banks stand to lose $500 million every 90 days the interest isn't paid. But analysts expect a compromise will soon be reached, allowing Brazil to repay the loans at lower rates.
This is not likely to develop into a banking crisis that the man in the street needs to worry about.
I don't foresee any major financial crisis or financial collapse because of this, but I do think that the shareholders are probably going to lose some money from this.
Shareholders have lost some money as bank stocks have generally fallen since Brazil's announcement. What Brazil did is not new. In 1982, Mexico suspended payments until its debts could be restructured. Bolivia and Peru have also stopped pending some accommodation. Ecuador and Argentina are threatening to do the same.
These countries really cannot service their debts. A lot of them are raw material producers and exporters. As long as these prices stay low, they can't service these debts unless they really mortgage the future of their population for many years ahead.
Brazil says it will not default on its loans, but analysts say that now banks will be increasingly hesitant about lending money to Brazil and to other developing and financially strapped nations. Al Dale, ABC News, New York.
In tonight's other money matters, the price of oil is going down. It fell under $17 a barrel on world markets today, primarily because buyers do not believe that OPEC will be able to limit production and keep the prices higher. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials gained almost 7 points today, and the trading was fairly active. And the Morton Thiokol company, which built the booster rocket blamed for the Challenger disaster, has reached what amounts to an out-of-court settlement with NASA. Thiokol has agreed to give up $10 million in profits from its work for the space agency. Thiokol has also agreed to perform an additional $409 million worth of repair work on the booster rocket design at cost without profit. Thiokol accepted no liability for the Challenger explosion. When we come back, the Grammy Awards, recognition for Alligator.
Runny nose, watery eyes, congestion, and a headache. When you've got all these sinus symptoms all together, you've got sinus complex. And that's too complex a problem for most cold or sinus remedies. You need maximum strength Cyanide, specially developed to relieve all the symptoms of sinus complex. Cyanide, you'll feel altogether better. And take new Cyanide nighttime at night to feel altogether better in the morning. Why would one company work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and spend billions of dollars building America's first and only 100% fiber optic long-distance network? Why? So that every fiber optic long-distance call you make will be so clear and quiet that you can actually hear a pin drop. U.S. Sprint. Builders of the first and only 100% fiber optic network, clear across America.
Think your cereal is nutritious? Put down your spoon and listen. Because a leading consumer magazine ranked 59 cold cereals on fiber, protein, sugar, sodium, and fat. And of those 59 cereals, they found 3 varieties in Nabisco shredded wheat topped the ratings, providing plenty of fiber and protein, no sugar, and very little sodium or fat. So before you pick up your spoon, pick up the leading cereal that topped the ratings, Nabisco shredded wheat.
Tonight on Nightline, a baby is born with drugs in its body and dies. The mother is charged with fetal abuse. Ted Koppel asks, is it a crime for a pregnant woman to ignore her doctor's orders?
Finally this evening, the Grammy Awards, which, as you know, are the record industry's annual tribute to the best in recorded music. You undoubtedly know names like Barbra Streisand and Paul Simon, especially this year with Simon's new Graceland album. But unless you're a real aficionado, the name of another pop music figure, Alligator Iglauer, might not exactly ring a bell. ABC's Chris Bury makes the connection.
It is the sound that drifted up to Chicago from the Mississippi Delta half a century ago. And now the blues are thriving again, thanks partly to one man's love for the music.
Is there any way you can do any hammers in there?
16 years ago, Bruce Iglauer was a shipping clerk and a blues fan. But his favorite bands weren't making records, so he took $2,500 and founded a record company in his Chicago apartment. Hound Dog Taylor made the first album. The label was called Alligator, after Iglauer's nickname.
It comes from my habit of listening to songs on the radio and clicking my teeth together, playing drum parts, sort of. And a friend of mine started calling me Alligator.
Alligator sunk its teeth into the blues. It grew from a one-man mail-order outfit to a staff of 10. From sales of $9,000 the first year to $1.5 million last year.
It never occurred to me it would be a full-time job.
Alligator has discovered dozens of blues musicians, giving once unknown artists like Coco Taylor worldwide exposure.
Going places that I've never gone before, reaching out to audience that I've never reached before.
Tonight, a new album featuring Albert Collins is up for a Grammy Award. One of 3 Alligator records nominated for Best Blues.
Let's go back and take a listen.
Despite Alligator's success, Bruce Iglauer has no grand plans for the label, except to record the blues that he says make the blind see, the deaf and dumb hear and talk.
I want to make classics in this kind of music. I don't want to try to follow trends. I want to be the trend. I want people to come and find our music and fall in love with it like I fell in love with it.
Let me love you, babe. Tell you good love,
Chris Bury, ABC News, Chicago.
Good news for Alligator Iglauer. His recording of Showdown by Albert Collins, Robert Cray, and Johnny Copeland has indeed won for the best traditional blues recording in the Grammys. That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Have a good evening. Good night.
From ABC, this has been World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Tuesday.
Embrace her.
Mona gives the kids a lesson in love.
Now what? You figure.
We're
ready for more.
Together, we bring you more.
1, 2, 3, I'll keep on playing till we fall the money, scratch those blues away.
We got so many winners that it ain't even funny. Try 3 for the money today.
Yeah, it's the new game from the Iowa Lottery. Get a winning combination like 1, 2, 3 and win one of millions of cash prizes. Get your tickets now, dear friends. Tell them I sent you.
3 little numbers that can change your life. Even for your kids and your dog and your wife. It's 3 for the money. All right, you can't win if you don't play.